My name is Hannah Pierce. I'm 30 years old, and 3 years ago, I was publicly destroyed by the people who were supposed to love me most. My mother, my sister. My own family stood at press conferences and called me a thief. They told the world I'd stolen $2.1 million from a children's charity I'd founded with my own hands. They watched me lose everything: my career, my reputation, my ability to walk down the street without strangers recognizing me as the woman who stole from sick kids. Every word of it was a lie. But when the people telling the lie have money and power and lawyers, and you have nothing but the truth, the lie wins. At least at first. This is the story of how I spent 3 years gathering evidence, planning, waiting for the perfect moment. This is the story of how I walked back into their world wearing a costume that told them exactly what they'd done to me. This is the story of how I made them unmask themselves in front of everyone who mattered, using nothing but their own words, their own voices, their own calculated cruelty played back for the world to hear. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, if you've ever watched guilty people walk free while you paid the price for their crimes, if you've ever been thrown away by the people who promised to protect you, then this story is for you. Because sometimes the only way to clear your name is to stop defending yourself and start exposing them. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling me if you've ever been the scapegoat in your own family. And stay with me. Because what happened at that Halloween gala is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about family loyalty, corporate ethics, and how far people will go to protect their own reputation. Let me take you back to the beginning. Back to when I still believed that working hard and being good would protect me. Back to when I thought family meant something. I grew up in Boston, in a family that looked perfect from the outside. The Pierces. 3 generations of success in real estate and investment. My grandfather built the company from nothing. My father expanded it into New England's most respected firm. And when he died suddenly when I was 15, my mother, Margaret, took over and turned Pierce Holdings into a powerhouse. We lived in Brookline, in a mansion that had been featured in architecture magazines. We had the right connections, the right schools, the right everything. My older sister, Vanessa, was groomed from birth to take over the company eventually. Beautiful, charismatic, everything a future CEO should be. And me? I was the support system. The behind-the-scenes person who made everything look effortless. I was fine with that. I genuinely was. I didn't want the spotlight. I didn't want the pressure of running a multi-million-dollar company. What I wanted was to create experiences that mattered, events that brought people together, moments that made a difference. So I became an event coordinator, and I was exceptional at it. By the time I was 27, I'd coordinated charity galas that raised tens of millions of dollars. I understood the psychology of generosity, the aesthetics of wealth, the careful choreography of events that made powerful people feel important enough to open their wallets. Every event I planned exceeded its fundraising goals. Every client came back. I had a reputation as someone who could make impossible things happen. That's when I conceived the Future Fund, a children's charity focused on education and healthcare for underprivileged kids in Massachusetts. Not just another celebrity gala where rich people wrote checks and felt good about themselves. A transparent, trackable system where donors could see exactly where their money went and what impact it had. I spent months developing the concept, building partnerships with schools and hospitals, creating a model that prioritized accountability over flash, designing something that would actually change lives, not just generate good PR. I pitched it to Pierce Holdings Board. They loved it. Margaret loved it. Vanessa loved it. They gave me full autonomy to launch it as a company initiative, told me it would be perfect for our corporate social responsibility profile, excellent for our public image. Looking back, I should have questioned their enthusiasm, should have wondered why they were so eager to let me take the lead, to put my name front and center as the founder. Should have seen that I was being positioned as the public face for a reason. But I was young and idealistic, and desperately wanted my family to be proud of me. So I didn't question. I just worked. The launch gala was extraordinary. We raised $4.2 million in one night. The Boston Globe ran a feature story about the Pierce family's commitment to community. Social media was full of praise. Within 6 months, the Future Fund had provided educational grants to 42 schools and medical care for over 300 children. I worked 80-hour weeks on that charity. Every grant application crossed my desk. I visited schools, met families, learned children's names and stories. This wasn't just a corporate initiative to me. It was my purpose. The thing that made all the privilege of my upbringing mean something. And then, on a Tuesday morning in March, 3 years ago, my entire world exploded. I arrived at Pierce Holdings headquarters at 8 a.m. My keycard didn't work. I tried it 3 times before security approached. 2 guards I'd known for years, both looking uncomfortable. "Miss Pierce, you need to come with us." "What's happening?" "There's been a situation. Conference room A." Conference room A was where we held board meetings. When I walked in, I found my mother, my sister, 3 lawyers I'd never met, and a man in a cheap suit who introduced himself as an investigator. Margaret's voice was cold. "Sit down, Hannah. We need to discuss irregularities in the Future Fund accounts." My stomach dropped. "What irregularities?" One of the lawyers opened a folder. $2.1 million are unaccounted for. Transferred to offshore accounts over 7 months. We've traced the transfers to login credentials associated with your system access. "That's impossible. I never authorized offshore transfers. I don't even have the ability to create offshore accounts." Vanessa slid printouts across the table. "These are transaction logs. Your username, your password, your authorization codes, time-stamped during business hours when building security shows you were at your desk. Then someone used my credentials. Someone hacked my account or stole my password or—" "It found no evidence of hacking," the investigator said. "No unauthorized access. All security protocols followed. The transfers originated from your computer during your working hours, using passwords only you should know." "I didn't do this." My voice was rising. "Why would I steal from my own charity? From children? This makes no sense." The second lawyer pulled out more documents. "We also have evidence of significant personal expenditures during the period these transfers occurred. Designer purchases, luxury vacations, electronics, all paid for with credit cards in your name." They showed me statements, receipts from stores I'd never visited, hotels in cities I'd never been to, thousands of dollars in purchases I'd never made, all real transactions, all in my name. "Someone is framing me," I said. "This is all fabricated." "Hannah?" My mother's voice softened, which was somehow worse than the coldness. "If you needed money, if you were in trouble, you should have come to us. We're family." "I don't need money. I live in a modest apartment and drive a 10-year-old car. Look at my actual bank accounts. I have nothing." "The evidence is overwhelming," Vanessa said. The board has voted unanimously to file a formal complaint with law enforcement. We're also terminating your employment effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You're prohibited from returning to this building or contacting anyone at Pierce Holdings. You're framing me. I looked at my mother, then my sister. You're actually framing your own daughter, your own sister, for something I didn't do. Margaret wouldn't meet my eyes. The evidence speaks for itself. I'm sorry, Hannah, but this company's reputation is at stake. The Pierce name is at stake. We have to do what's right. What's right? She said those words while destroying me. They had me escorted out by security that morning. Someone had tipped off the press. Cameras were waiting outside. My face was captured in dozens of photographs, confused, devastated, being walked out like a criminal. Those photos would define me for years. By noon, I was on every news site. Pierce, heiress, accused of charity fraud. Hannah Pierce, under investigation for embezzling from Children's Fund. The hypocrite who stole the future. The headlines were brutal. Social media was worse. People I'd never met sent messages telling me I deserved prison, that I was the worst kind of person, that I should be ashamed to show my face. Strangers posted my address online. Someone created a website tracking my movements. I received physical letters filled with such hatred that I was afraid to leave my apartment. The investigation lasted 4 months. 4 months of lawyers I couldn't afford, mounting debt, complete inability to find work. 4 months of watching my family hold press conferences where they expressed their shock and betrayal, positioning themselves as victims of my alleged crimes. My mother cried on television. We trusted her completely. We gave her every opportunity. To learn she betrayed that trust, betrayed those children, is devastating. Vanessa looked directly into cameras. I want those donors to know their money will be restored. Pierce Holdings will personally cover the missing funds. We won't let my sister's actions hurt these children. They were playing the role of noble family members cleaning up my mess, and the world believed them. The prosecutor eventually declined to file criminal charges. Not enough evidence for conviction beyond reasonable doubt, they said. But that didn't matter. I was guilty in the court of public opinion, and Pierce Holdings filed a civil lawsuit demanding restitution for the missing money plus damages for reputational harm. I couldn't fight. I had no money for lawyers who could match their legal team, no resources for years of litigation. So I signed a settlement agreement. I admitted no guilt, but agreed to pay back a portion of the alleged missing funds over 20 years. I agreed to a non-disclosure clause preventing me from publicly discussing the specifics. I agreed to disappear, and I did. I moved to a different neighborhood, changed my appearance, cut my hair, lost weight, stopped dressing like someone who'd once had money. I worked cash-only jobs that didn't require background checks. I became invisible. But I never stopped investigating. I never stopped believing the truth was out there. 6 months ago, everything changed. I received a message from Amber Liu, former head of IT at Pierce Holdings. She'd been fired 2 weeks after me, officially for restructuring. Really, because she'd refused to delete certain files. Her message was simple. I have proof. Meet me. We met in Providence, far from Boston. Amber looked tired, older than her years. She slid a thumb drive across the table. I couldn't reach out sooner. They made me sign an NDA with penalties that would have bankrupted me, but I can't stay quiet anymore. What they did to you was evil. What's on here? Everything. Emails, financial records, and the video. What video? The Zoom meeting, March 10th, 2 days before they accused you. Your mother, your sister, the legal team, and the CFO, planning exactly how to frame you. I was the IT admin responsible for recording it for compliance. They forgot I was there. Or thought all recordings auto-deleted. But I'd set up a backup system, saving everything to a private cloud. They fired me before they could force me to delete it. That night, I watched the video 20 times, memorizing every word. The date stamp read, March 10th, 3 years ago. Margaret Pierce, Vanessa Pierce, Christopher Hamilton from Legal, David Chen from Finance. Meeting title, Fund Discrepancy Resolution Strategy. Margaret's voice, clear and cold. The PR campaign went significantly over budget. We used future fund money to cover the shortfall. Auditors will flag this within weeks. We need someone to take responsibility before the trail leads to Vanessa. Vanessa. Use Hannah. She's the public face of the charity. She has system access. People will believe she got greedy or made mistakes. She's young, emotional, not particularly strategic about protecting herself. David Chen. What about the ethics? Margaret, cutting him off. The ethics are simple. We protect the company. The Pierce name cannot survive another scandal. We sacrifice Hannah to save everything else. Christopher Hamilton. We'll need to create a paper trail, transaction logs using her credentials, evidence of personal expenditures matching the timing, thorough enough to survive investigation but not so obvious it looks planted. Vanessa. She won't fight hard. Hannah's always been the peacekeeper. She'll take a settlement rather than drag us through litigation. She's predictable. Margaret. And if she does fight? Vanessa smiled. Then we bury her completely. We have resources she doesn't. Lawyers she can't afford. We'll win, and she'll look guilty for fighting. 18 minutes of my family discussing my destruction like it was a quarterly earnings call. Calculating. Clinical. Cruel. They knew I was innocent. They knew exactly who committed the fraud, and they chose to frame me because it was convenient, because I was expendable, because destroying me was easier than admitting Vanessa made a mistake. I made copies of everything. Then I contacted Ethan Ward. Ethan had been a friend in college before my life imploded. Now he was an investigative journalist for the Boston Globe, covering corporate fraud. He'd tried reaching out after my scandal, but I'd been too ashamed to respond. Now I needed him. I have evidence, I told him. Video proof my family framed me, but I need help using it properly. Ethan reviewed everything. His face went pale. This is prosecutable. SEC violations, fraud, conspiracy, evidence tampering. We need to take this to authorities immediately. Not yet. What do you mean? This proves your innocence. I don't just want to be proven innocent. I want them to face real consequences. Public consequences. If we file quietly, they'll lawyer up, spin it, minimize their culpability. I want them to expose themselves. I want everyone to see who they really are. How? I showed him the invitation I'd received a week earlier. Heavy cardstock, gold embossing. Pierce Holdings. Annual Halloween Gala. Theme: Unmasking Ourselves. Join us celebrating 25 years of integrity, transparency, and family values. The irony was almost too perfect. They invited you? Ethan looked shocked. My mother did, with a handwritten note about healing, moving past the unpleasantness, being a family again. She thinks I'm broken, that I'll come back grateful just to be included. And you're going to accept? I'm going to show up at their gala. Play that video in front of their board members, investors, press, everyone whose opinion matters. But first, we need to file the complaints. Active SEC investigation. When I play the video, means it's not just an accusation. It's evidence in an ongoing case. That's risky. If they get wind of the investigation, we time it perfectly. File everything the morning of the gala. SEC notification won't reach them until evening. By then, they'll be on stage in front of everyone, unable to hide. Ethan smiled slowly. That's brilliant and ruthless. They taught me how to plan events. They never expected me to plan their downfall. Over 3 weeks, we worked with Amber to authenticate everything. We brought in a whistleblower attorney named Sarah Chen, who confirmed the evidence was solid, legally obtained, admissible. We compiled a complaint that would trigger immediate SEC investigation, and I planned my costume. If they wanted unmasking, I'd give them unmasking. I found a vintage wedding dress. White silk, elegant lines, cathedral train. Beautiful. The kind representing purity and innocence, everything I was supposed to be before they destroyed me. Then I modified it. Carefully burned the edges, making them look charred. Stained sections with gray and black to look like ash. Created strategic tears, giving the impression of something that survived fire, but was forever changed. I was going as the scorched bride, the woman they'd set aflame who refused to burn completely. My mask was silver, reflective, covering half my face. Anyone looking at me would see themselves. Perfect. The morning of October 31st, we filed everything. SEC complaint at 9 a.m., State Attorney General at 9:30. By noon, regulatory wheels were turning. By evening, notification would reach Pierce Holdings. But by evening, I'd already be there. Already in their house. Already waiting for the perfect moment. I spent the afternoon on makeup. Dark, smoky eyes, pale lips, contouring that made me look gaunt. I looked like someone who'd crawled from a grave, which I had, in a way. Ethan picked me up at 6. Ready? I've been ready for 3 years. What if it doesn't work? Then at least I tried. At least they'll know I didn't stay buried. We drove to Brookline, to the estate where I'd spent every holiday and birthday of my childhood. The mansion was lit up orange and purple, luxury cars lining the driveway, costumed guests heading inside. This was their power on display. Their wealth, their connections, their carefully constructed image. Everything built on the foundation of my destroyed reputation. I walked up the front steps in my scorched dress, silver mask reflecting lights. The security guard checked my invitation. Recognition flickered in his eyes. "Welcome back, Miss Pierce," he said quietly. We walked inside. The grand foyer I'd run through as a child. The staircase I'd descended in prom dresses. The chandelier my father had hung before he died. This house had been home once. Now it felt like a tomb. The ballroom was stunning. Vanessa had outdone herself. Mirrors everywhere, reflecting and distorting. Masks hanging from invisible wires. Lighting shifting from warm gold to cool blue. 300 people. Board members, investors, corporate partners, journalists. Everyone whose opinion could make or break Pierce Holdings. I found them. Margaret as a white queen, regal and elegant. Vanessa as an angel with silver wings and a halo. The irony was suffocating. My phone buzzed. "Ethan, SEC confirmation received. Investigation officially active." Everything was falling into place. Then Vanessa saw me. Recognition, shock, anger, fear, all in 2 seconds before she forced a smile and approached. "Hannah, what are you doing here?" "I was invited. Isn't this what Mother wanted?" "That was her idea, not mine." "You should have stayed away." "Why? Worried I'll embarrass you?" "Worried you'll embarrass yourself. The victim routine is getting old." "Is it?" "I think it's just getting interesting." She grabbed my elbow, gripped tight enough to hurt. You signed an NDA. If you're here to cause trouble, I'll have security remove you and sue you for everything. The NDA covered the settlement. Nothing about new evidence. New investigations. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? You'll see. Very soon. But you might want to find a lawyer. The SEC takes fraud seriously. I walked away, leaving her frozen. Margaret found me next. Hannah, sweetheart, I'm so glad you came. Are you? You're my daughter. I've missed you. You never called, never wrote. 3 years of silence. I didn't think you'd want to hear from me after the investigation. After you framed me, you mean? Her expression flickered. The evidence clearly showed evidence you fabricated. Tell me, did you receive any interesting emails today? Notifications from regulatory agencies? Her face lost all color. What did you do? What you should have done 3 years ago. I told the truth. Whatever you think you have, it's not worth destroying this family. We can fix this. Tell me what you want. I want the 3 years you stole, the career you destroyed, the reputation you ruined. But since I can't have those, I'll settle for everyone seeing who you really are. Please. Your father died because I stayed silent once. I can't lose everything he built. Then you shouldn't have built it on lies. I walked away. The evening continued. Dinner. Speeches about Pierce Holdings' success, about family values and integrity. Every word felt like poison. At 10 p.m., Vanessa took the stage. Thank you for joining us. To celebrate 25 years, we have something special. A retrospective of our journey, our achievements, our values. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered to life. But what appeared wasn't a corporate retrospective. It was the Zoom recording. March 10th. Margaret Pierce, Vanessa Pierce, Christopher Hamilton, David Chen. Margaret's voice filled the ballroom. The PR campaign went over budget. We used future fund money to cover it. Auditors will find this within weeks. We need someone to take responsibility before the trail leads to Vanessa. The room went silent. Vanessa on screen. Use Hannah. She's the public face. People will believe she got greedy. I watched faces in the crowd. Shock, confusion, growing horror. The video continued. 5 minutes of them discussing my destruction in clinical detail. Every word condemning. Then a title card appeared. Securities and Exchange Commission complaint. Filed. October 31st by Hannah Pierce. Investigation status active. The screen went dark. Lights came up. Every eye turned to me. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then chaos. Vanessa's voice, shrill and desperate. That video is fake. She doctored it. She's trying to... It's not fake. Harold Bell stood. Harold Bell, chairman of the board, my mother's trusted ally for 25 years. I received official SEC notification 2 hours ago. Investigation opened for charity fund misappropriation, evidence tampering, fraud, conspiracy. The notification included authentication of this video, verified genuine by their forensic team. The room erupted. Board members shouting questions, journalists rushing for exits, investors pulling out phones. Vanessa tried grabbing the microphone, but her hands were shaking too badly. This is corporate sabotage. My sister has been unstable since her termination. She's been making threats. I haven't threatened anyone, I said, my voice carrying through the chaos. I filed a legitimate complaint with federal regulators using evidence your own IT department backed up for compliance, evidence you tried destroying when you fired Amber Liu for refusing to delete it. You signed an NDA. The NDA covered the settlement. Nothing about new evidence or new legal proceedings. I'm within my rights to file complaints with federal regulators. Margaret pushed through the crowd toward the stage. Everyone, please. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Mother. You and Vanessa used $2.1 million of charity funds for an unauthorized PR campaign. When auditors flagged it, you framed me to cover your tracks. You destroyed my career, my reputation, my entire life to protect yourselves. You don't understand the pressure we were under. I understand perfectly. You chose to sacrifice your daughter rather than admit you made a mistake. You chose lies over truth. Harold Bell stepped onto the stage. I'm making an official announcement. Effective immediately, Margaret Pierce and Vanessa Pierce are suspended from all executive roles pending investigation outcome. Emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. This celebration is over. But nobody moved. Everyone was too busy staring at the unfolding family drama. Vanessa turned on me, tears and mascara streaming. You destroyed us. Everything we built, everything Dad worked for, was built on lies. And Dad? I stepped closer. Dad would be ashamed of both of you. That's when Margaret broke. Completely. You don't get to talk about your father. Her scream echoed through the ballroom. He died because I made a mistake. Because I stayed silent about fraud once before. The room went deathly quiet. This was new information. What? I whispered. Margaret's composure shattered. Words poured out. Your father's business partner was embezzling. Your father discovered it. He was going to report it, destroy the company to do the right thing. I begged him not to. I said we could handle it quietly. He wouldn't listen. He filed with federal regulators. She took a breath. 3 months later, he was dead. Single vehicle accident, ruled accidental. But it wasn't. His partner had connections. They made it look random. I knew. I knew they eliminated him for threatening them. Everyone was frozen, processing this revelation that my father's death might not have been an accident. So you learned never to tell the truth again. I learned that protecting family means impossible choices. I lost my husband because he was honest. I wasn't going to lose my company, too. So you threw me away instead. You were supposed to be strong enough to survive it. You're smart, capable, young enough to rebuild. I thought you could take the hit and recover, but you didn't. You broke. You proved me wrong. You're angry I wasn't resilient enough for your betrayal? You're upset that being publicly destroyed by my own family was too much for me? I'm angry that you're weak, that you came back for revenge instead of moving on, that you're just like your father, so obsessed with truth and justice you can't see the cost. The cost? I pulled off my mask. The cost is 3 years of my life. The cost is losing my career, my savings, my sense of safety. The cost is learning my own mother would destroy me to save herself. That's the cost. And you paid it with my life. I did what I had to? No. You did what was easy. You chose protection over truth and made me collateral damage. Vanessa stepped forward, her voice hollow. What do you want from us? Money? We'll pay whatever you want. I don't want your money. I want the 3 years you stole, the relationships you destroyed, the person I was before you broke her. But since I can't have that, I'll settle for this. The world knows what you are. No more pretending, no more masks. I turned to address the room. For 3 years, I've been called a thief, a hypocrite, someone who stole from sick children. I lost everything because I was convenient to blame. But now you know the truth. The video is authenticated. The SEC has all evidence. I wanted you to see it yourselves. I wanted truth to be public. What you did was cruel, Margaret said. Setting us up. Humiliating us in front of everyone. It's vicious. It's honest. I gave you a mirror. I made you look at what you've become. If you don't like what you see, that's not my cruelty. That's yours. I walked off stage, through the crowd that parted silently. Ethan was waiting by the exit. We left together, leaving chaos behind. Behind me, I heard Margaret calling my name. I didn't turn around. The media explosion was immediate. By midnight, the video was everywhere. By morning, it had gone viral. Pierce scandal was trending nationally. Pierce Holdings stock dropped 37% in the first trading day. Board members resigned. Investors pulled funding. Corporate partners terminated contracts. The company my family built over 3 generations was collapsing. I didn't watch much coverage. I'd done what I needed to do. The rest was up to investigators. But the attention on me was intense. Reporters camped outside my apartment. My phone rang constantly with interview requests. Everyone wanted a piece of the woman who'd brought down her own family. I ignored most of it. But I agreed to one interview with Ethan for the Boston Globe. He deserved to break the story properly. We met at a quiet cafe in Cambridge. Ethan had already published the initial investigation piece, including the video, financial records, interviews with Amber and other former employees. It was nominated for a Pulitzer within weeks. How are you holding up? Empty, mostly. Not happy, not sad, just empty. That's normal after something like this. You've been running on adrenaline and anger for months. Now that it's done, you're crashing. Is it done, though? Investigation is just starting. Legal proceedings could take years. Your part is done. You provided evidence, told truth. Now others have to do their jobs. Can I step back? Everyone knows my face. Everyone has opinions. Half the internet thinks I'm a hero. The other half thinks I'm vindictive. What do you think? I stirred my coffee. I think I did what I had to do. They forced my hand. If I'd stayed silent, they'd still be getting away with it, and some other employee would be their next victim. I stopped them. Do you regret it? Regret exposing them? No. Regret how I did it? Sometimes. The public humiliation was calculated, designed to maximize damage. That feels cruel. They humiliated you publicly 3 years ago. I know, but I don't want to be like them. I don't want revenge to turn me into someone I don't recognize. For what it's worth, I think you showed restraint. You could have released that video anonymously 3 years ago. Could have destroyed them without warning. Instead, you went through proper legal channels, filed complaints with authorities, gave them chance to see evidence coming. They chose not to prepare, not to come clean. Public humiliation happened because they were still lying at the moment of exposure. Maybe. They framed you for a crime you didn't commit, let you be publicly destroyed, watched you lose everything and never considered telling truth. They don't deserve your guilt. Guilt isn't about what people deserve. It's about who I want to be. The interview went on for 2 hours. Ethan published it the following week. A long-form piece that humanized me, showed I wasn't just revenge incarnate, but a person trying to find her way back. Response was mixed. Some appreciated nuance. Others accused me of playing victim after destroying my family's legacy. The internet couldn't agree. But one response surprised me. 4 days after the article published, I received a letter. Hand-delivered, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Vanessa. I sat with that envelope for an hour before opening it. Hannah, it began, I don't expect you to read this. Don't expect forgiveness or understanding. but I need to write it, if only to admit truth to myself. You were right about everything. I used charity funds for the PR campaign. I convinced Mother to frame you. I destroyed you to save myself. I've spent 3 years telling myself it was justified, that you'd bounce back, that company survival mattered more than one person's reputation. But watching that video at the gala, seeing my own words, she's young, emotional, not particularly strategic, I heard how I really saw you. Not as my sister, not as a person, as a problem to solve, an obstacle to remove. I'm horrified by that person. I don't know if you care, but I'm going to plead guilty. No plea deal, no reduced sentence. Full responsibility. Mother wants to fight. She's hired lawyers, preparing to argue impossible pressures. But I'm done lying. I did it. I stole the money. I framed you. I deserve whatever comes. I'm not asking forgiveness, not asking you to tell prosecutors to go easy. Just telling you that you were right. About me, about Mother, about everything. And I'm sorry. So deeply sorry. If you never want to hear from me again, I understand. All I ask is that you believe this. I loved you. I do love you. I just loved success and Mother's approval more, and that choice destroyed everything that mattered. I hope you find peace. I hope you rebuild beautifully. I hope you forget I exist. Your sister, Vanessa. I read that letter 5 times, folded it carefully, put it away. I didn't respond, didn't know what to say. Investigation moved forward. 3 months after the gala, formal charges were filed. Vanessa was charged with fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. She pleaded guilty to all counts. Margaret fought, hired the best defense attorneys, argued she'd been protecting the company, making difficult decisions under pressure. Her lawyers painted her as a widow, traumatized by her husband's suspicious death, paranoid into protectiveness. The jury didn't buy it, convicted on all counts. Judge called her actions calculated betrayal of family and public trust. 4 years in federal prison. Vanessa received 3 years for cooperation, both ordered to pay restitution, $2.1 million to the Future Fund, plus damages. Pierce Holdings was finished. Board sold assets to pay settlements. The Pierce name became a cautionary tale. I didn't attend sentencing hearings. Didn't want to see them in prison jumpsuits. Didn't want to be photographed watching them led away. I'd done what I needed to do. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. Found a new job. Director of compliance for a nonprofit focused on corporate accountability. They hired me specifically because of what I'd done. SEC whistleblower made me employable again. I moved to Washington, D.C. Far from Boston, far from memories. Found an apartment with good light. Made new friends who knew my story but didn't define me by it. Built a life that felt mine. The first year was hard. Nightmares, panic attacks seeing news coverage, moments questioning everything, wondering if I'd been too harsh, too public. But then I'd remember. They framed me. They destroyed my life. They never apologized until caught. And I'd know I made the right choice. Not because revenge felt good. It mostly felt hollow. But because staying silent would have destroyed me from inside. Speaking truth, even painful truth, was the only way I could live with myself. 18 months after the gala, I received an unexpected visitor. Working from home, reviewing compliance documents when my building's front desk called. Miss Pierce, there's a Margaret Pierce here. Should I send her up? My mother. I hadn't seen her since the gala. Hadn't spoken through the entire investigation and trial. She'd tried contacting me repeatedly. Letters, emails, messages through lawyers. I'd ignored everything. Give me 5 minutes. Then send her up. I used those minutes to prepare emotionally. Remember, she couldn't hurt me anymore, had no power here. When she knocked, I opened the door to find a woman I barely recognized. Margaret Pierce had always been polished, professional, commanding. This woman looked small, worn down by prison. Hannah, just my name. Come in. She entered carefully, looking around. This is nice. Good neighborhood. What do you want, Mother? To apologize? To explain? To try to make you understand? I understand perfectly. You chose yourself over me, your reputation over my life. Then let me apologize. I was wrong. I was terrified and paranoid and still grieving your father, and I made the worst decision of my life. I destroyed my daughter to protect a company that doesn't even exist anymore. I gave up everything that mattered for nothing. And I'm sorry. I sat down, didn't offer her a seat. Let her stand there, uncomfortable. You're sorry now, after you were caught, after you faced consequences. But you weren't sorry when you were getting away with it. I was always sorry. I just couldn't admit it, couldn't face what I'd done. So I told myself you'd bounce back, you'd be fine. I told myself lies to make guilt bearable. And now that you've served time, lost everything, are you sorry because you regret what you did, or because you faced consequences? She was quiet. Both. I'm sorry I did it, and sorry I got caught. I wish I could say I'm purely repentant, that I've had moral awakening. But truth is more complicated. I'm sorry for multiple reasons, not all noble. I appreciated the honesty. Why are you here? Because you're my daughter. Because I destroyed our relationship and want to know if there's any possibility of rebuilding. I'm not asking forgiveness. Just asking if you'd be willing to talk. Occasionally. Slowly. Let me prove I'm different. How are you different? I'm not. Not yet. But I want to be. Prison changes you. Not in redemptive movie ways, but smaller ways. You have time to think. Face what you've done. Understand ripples of your choices. I've spent 18 months thinking about how I treated you. How I enabled Vanessa, making her believe success mattered more than integrity. How I let your father's death poison me into someone he would have hated. Dad would have told the truth about what you did to me. I know. That makes it worse. I became exactly what he fought against. A person protecting power at expense of principle. And I did it while claiming to honor his legacy. I looked at her. This woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, shaped me, then destroyed me. I felt something complicated. Not forgiveness, but not pure hatred either. Just sad recognition that people are capable of terrible things while still being human. I'm not ready to have you in my life. Maybe someday, but not now. The wound is too fresh. I understand. But I don't hate you. I want you to know that. I don't wish you continued suffering. I hope you genuinely change. I hope you become someone who deserves redemption. I'm just not the person who can give it to you. Who is? Yourself. The people you hurt. The world you lied to. Redemption isn't something you ask for. It's something you earn through years of different choices. She nodded, started to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. For fighting back. For refusing to stay destroyed. Strength isn't refusing to break. Strength is breaking and choosing to rebuild yourself into something better. You could do that too. Maybe I will. After she left, I sat in my apartment processing. feeling, trying to understand what I wanted from this new dynamic where my mother was powerless and apologetic. I didn't want revenge anymore. I'd had that at the gala, but I didn't want reconciliation either. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What I wanted was space, distance, the ability to build a life that didn't revolve around family drama. 3 months later, Vanessa visited. She'd been released early for good behavior. Showed up at my office, asked my assistant if I'd see her. Curiosity won. I wanted to see who she'd become. She looked different. Less polished, simpler hair, cheaper clothes, minimal makeup. Someone who'd stopped performing. "I got a job," she said after awkward small talk, "at a nonprofit, working with juvenile offenders, helping them navigate the legal system. Pay is terrible, but it feels right." That's good. I'm also in therapy. Real therapy, not for sentencing. Trying to understand why I did what I did, why I chose success over integrity, why I sacrificed you so easily. Have you figured it out? Partially. I was terrified of being ordinary, unremarkable. Mother raised us to believe success was the only thing that mattered, that being special was the only thing making you worthy of love. So I built my identity around achievement. When that achievement was threatened, I destroyed anyone in the way, including you. Do you actually regret it, or regret the consequences? Both, but more the former. I regret becoming someone capable of that. I regret losing my sister. I regret that there was a version of me capable of such casual cruelty. There's still a version capable of it. Prison doesn't change fundamental character. It just shows you the cost of your choices. I know. That's why I'm in therapy. Working with kids who made terrible mistakes because I see myself in them. I'm trying to help them make different choices than I did. That's good. Are we? Is there any chance we could be sisters again someday? I don't know. Maybe. But not now. You destroyed something that can't be easily rebuilt. Trust, family, the belief that people who should love you will protect you. That doesn't heal quickly. I understand. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. Trying to become someone who deserves forgiveness, even if I never get it. That's all any of us can do. She left, and I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but the possibility of it, somewhere distant. Understanding that people could change, that redemption was possible. I didn't know if I'd ever truly forgive them, but I knew I was moving toward something other than hatred, toward acceptance. Understanding they were flawed humans who'd made terrible choices and were now living with consequences. That was enough for now. 2 years after the Halloween gala, I was invited to speak at a conference on corporate ethics and whistleblower protections. The organizers wanted me to tell my story, what it takes to stand up to family, and how whistleblowers protect themselves. I almost declined. I'd spent 2 years trying to build an identity not stamped by that night. My boss insisted. People need to hear from someone who went through it and won. I said yes. Chicago. A massive hotel convention center. Hundreds of compliance officers, corporate lawyers, ethics consultants, people who deal with fraud professionally and wanted to understand it personally. I was scheduled for day 2. When I stepped on stage and faced the audience, the familiar anxiety rose, and then something else. Pride. I'd survived. I'd told the truth. I refused to stay destroyed. Now I could turn the damage into direction. For 45 minutes I talked. The fraud, the framing, the 3 years of silence and investigation, the video evidence, the choice to expose my family publicly instead of filing quietly, the aftermath, media scrutiny, legal proceedings, and the tangled feelings around revenge and justice. I ended this way. People ask whether I regret how public it was, if I wish I'd been quieter, less dramatic, less vengeful. The answer is complicated. I regret that it came to that. I regret my family put me in a position where exposure was the only route to clear my name. But I do not regret telling the truth. I do not regret refusing to protect people who destroyed me. I do not regret showing the world who they were. Silence protects the guilty. Every time we stay quiet about wrongdoing, afraid of consequences, worried about relationships, telling ourselves it isn't our place, we choose the comfort of the guilty over justice for the innocent. I grew tired of being innocent and ruined while the guilty stayed comfortable. So I spoke up. I faced backlash. I survived. If you know about wrongdoing and feel pressure to keep quiet, if you're told speaking up will ruin families, careers, companies, ask, what is the cost of silence? Not just to you, but to future victims. Sometimes silence costs more than truth. Sometimes you must break something corrupt to build something better. I broke my family's myth. I broke the company's facade. I broke a reputation decades in the making. And I would do it again. Because silence would have killed me from the inside. Truth, however painful, was the only way I could live with myself. The applause was thunderous. People stood. For the first time since all of it began, I felt something other than rage, emptiness, or complicated grief. I felt purpose, like maybe the wreckage could become a map for someone else. After the speech, a line formed. Some were living a version of my story and were afraid to report. Some were compliance officers trying to protect whistleblowers better. Some were scapegoats who simply wanted to say that my story gave them courage. One woman waited until the end. 40s, poised, successful. I've sat on evidence of insider trading for 8 months, she said. My boss is involved. Half the executive team is involved. Reporting could collapse the company, cost hundreds their jobs, end my career. I've told myself silence is responsible, that protecting jobs matters more than abstract justice. And now I realize silence makes me complicit. Every day I don't report. I choose the comfort of the guilty over the integrity of the market. If someone's harmed because I kept quiet, that's on me too. What are you going to do? Report. Tomorrow. Document everything. File with the SEC, accept the consequences. You're right. The cost of silence is too high. It will be hard, I warned. You'll be blamed, called disloyal, vindictive, a troublemaker. I know, she said, but at least I'll be able to look in the mirror. I gave her my contact information, legal resources, moral support, a person to text at 2 a.m. That feeling returned. Purpose. Maybe my pain could prevent someone else's. I stayed 3 days, talking in hallways and corners and quiet lounges. Strategies for documentation. How to time disclosures. How to protect evidence and yourself. By the end, I felt more connected to humanity than I had in years. Not family by blood. Family by values. On the flight home, I opened the journal Kate gave me 2 years ago, the one I'd left blank because anger had made language impossible. Words finally came. I spent so long being angry. The anger was earned, but holding it only hurts me. They've faced consequences, lost the company, the reputation, sometimes their freedom. Clutching rage won't punish them, it only tethers me to the worst moment. I'm choosing something else. Not forgiveness, maybe never, but release. They are flawed people who made catastrophic choices. Their choices don't define me. I can build a life, a purpose, that has nothing to do with them. I will be more than the woman they tried to destroy, more than the whistleblower, more than the avenger. I will be the person who used survival to help others. That's victory, not the gala, not the verdict, not watching them fall. Victory is becoming someone I'm proud of, someone who tells the truth when it's hard, someone who turns pain into purpose. They broke me for a time. What they didn't count on is that broken things can be rebuilt stronger. Surviving destruction teaches you what matters. Losing everything shows you what you're made of. I am made of truth, resilience, and a refusal to stay down. They can't take that. When I reached D.C., there was a letter from Harold Bell, former chair of the board. Dear Hannah, enough time has passed for perspective. I missed the fraud. I failed to protect you. I let loyalty to your mother blind me to red flags. I should have investigated when you were accused, demanded proof beyond convenient narratives. I didn't. I chose what was easy over what was right. I failed you and the principles I claim to hold. Because of what you did, I've changed how I serve. I sit on 3 corporate ethics boards. I teach at Harvard Business School on governance failures and whistleblower protection. With your permission, I use your story as a case study in why independent oversight matters. You changed the way I think about responsibility. You probably saved future employees at other companies. It doesn't undo what happened to you, but your courage created ripples beyond your case. Thank you for your integrity and for showing us real accountability. I read it 3 times and cried, not from sorrow, but recognition. The pain had meant something beyond me. I wrote back, permission granted. Happy to guest lecture. Thank you for owning failure and building safeguards. Then I put that letter, and every letter from my mother, from Vanessa, from strangers, into a box labeled the past, and slid it on a high shelf. Not erased, filed, given its proper place. That night, I walked through my neighborhood, autumn air sharp, leaves skittering, monuments lit against a dark sky. Tourists, locals, everyone carrying invisible histories. I sat on the Lincoln steps and watched the reflecting pool and thought about my father, how he'd risked his career for truth, about how grief twisted my mother toward protection over principle, how trauma ripples through generations when no one interrupts it. But ripples can be stopped. I chose to stop them. I refused to become my mother, refused to choose comfort over truth, refused to sacrifice others to keep a mask intact. I thought about the mask I'd worn, the dutiful daughter, the loyal employee, the woman who made herself small so others could breathe. At the gala, I tore it off. Photos online show me in a scorched wedding dress, a silver mask catching light, calm in chaos as my family's fiction collapsed. I looked like a ghost, someone who died and returned. In a way I had, the old Hannah who believed family would protect her, who mistook quiet for goodness, died that March morning when they destroyed her. The new Hannah was clearer, harder, less afraid. Built from ash, fireproof. That is power, not money or rank, but knowing you can lose everything and still be whole. Knowing truth is heavier than lies. Knowing you can rebuild. I slept well for the first time in years. In the morning, with coffee in a quiet kitchen, I felt contentment. Not a spike of happiness, but something steadier, a right-sized life, honest and earned. My grandmother used to say, honor isn't never falling. It's how you get up. I used to think honor was perfection. I know better now. Honor is staying true when it costs everything, telling the truth when lies would be easier, refusing to become what hurt you, even when you have every excuse. They taught me loyalty meant silence, love meant sacrifice of self, honor meant protecting the family name. They were wrong. Honor is exposing wrongdoing, even your own family's. Loyalty is to values, not violators. Love refuses to enable self-destruction, even if they hate you for it. I didn't destroy my family out of revenge. I destroyed the lies. In doing so, I gave them a chance to rebuild into something honest. Whether they take it is not my work. My work is done. I told the truth, faced the fallout, survived. And now I'm building something better. That's the real unmasking. Not a costume peeled off at a party, but the slow removal of performance and fear until only your values remain. I wore a mask for 30 years and nearly forgot it was a mask. The fire burned it away. What's left is flawed and scarred and real. They thought I'd vanish. Instead, I returned with documentation. The truth didn't just clear me, it held them accountable. Accountability, however painful, is the only lever that moves systems, the only thing that stops the next harm. So no, I don't regret the public reveal, the timing, the theater. Sometimes the only way to puncture a performance is with a mirror and a spotlight. I handed them both. If they didn't like their reflection, that's not my problem anymore. My problem is simpler. Build a life worth living. A life that honors who I've become, not who I was told to be. A life that says, I survived. I told the truth. I refused to stay broken. And I'm still here. That's what I want people to take away. Not that revenge satisfies. It mostly doesn't. Not that exposing family is easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But that surviving betrayal is possible. That truth is worth the cost. That you don't have to carry other people's lies to protect them from consequences they earned. You can set the burden down. You can walk away from those who treat you as disposable. You can choose yourself, even when they call it selfish. It isn't. It's survival. And survival is the first step towards something better. I survived. Now I'm building something honest, something real, something mine. If my family ever earns their way into that life, maybe I'll let them in, after years, not months, of demonstrated change. Until then, I'm content with the family I chose, the friends who stood by me, the strangers who became allies, the people who see me and value me anyway. That's enough. More than enough. The mask is off. The truth is out. The light is real. And I am finally free.